Welcome to the night before news for your GCSE Sociology Component 1 exam. You may have heard some of this before, but that's what revision is all about. As we know, it's about recapping and looking over the information that you need again. Make sure you've got somewhere quiet to listen and work your way through this recording, and hopefully it will tell you everything you need to know for your exam tomorrow. The questions that are going to be referred to in this night before news are from the exam paper from 2019, which you were provided in class. If you've got it with you, it's worth having a look through it again as you listen and look at this PowerPoint. But if you haven't, it doesn't matter. Still listen to the PowerPoint, make any notes if you need to, but otherwise just sit, listen and think about what you need to know for tomorrow.
This exam includes 3 assessment objectives. AO1 is knowledge and understanding. To gain AO1 marks, you must tell the examiner what you know about the question. It is stating knowledge that you have gained from the course, such as names of relevant sociologists, theories, their research and methods. AO2 is applying knowledge and understanding to answer the particular question. You must show how the knowledge you use is relevant to the questions. AO3 is analysing, interpreting and evaluating. There should be a central argument running through your answer related to the question. Judgments must be supported and there should be a conclusion linked to the specifics of the question. We'll now look at the content of this exam paper, and you must note there is no choice of questions. All questions and parts of questions must be answered. This exam lasts for 1 hour and 45 minutes. The timings offered in this presentation are based on someone who has this time to complete the exam. If you are eligible for extra time in exams, please amend the suggested timings included in this presentation. To give you a guide as to how long you spend on each question, work on the basis of 1 mark a minute with 5 minutes reading time. The timing is very important so that you can make sure you finish all the questions in time and don't finish too soon. The first 3 questions, which are mix and match and short answers, can be answered quite quickly. If you spend less on the allocated time in these questions, you will have little extra time on the higher mark questions later on in the paper.
Take time at the beginning to read through the instructions on the front of the paper, fill in all the details that you need to. This is a time to ground yourself, get yourself settled and take a few deep breaths. If you do need extra space, there will be extra pages at the end of the exam paper. Please feel free to write there. Just make sure that you number the questions clearly for the examiner so they know what they're marking. If you need any more paper, then just ask the invigilators by raising your hand and they will give you extra paper as required. Question 1 will be your multiple choice questions. You will have 5 or 6 answers, but only 4 spaces in which to put them. So that means you need to read through the answers and work out which answers go where. Don't go too quickly so that you make silly mistakes, as these can be some really bankable marks to help you get the next grade that you need to.
Try now to answer the questions in question 1. You've got A, B, C and D. The answers are A, culture, 1B is quantitative, C is polygamy, and 1D is Durkheim. Questions 2 and 3 test key concepts and processes of cultural transmission. It is very important you know what skills are assessed in each question. These will be found in the mark scheme and will be obvious from the command words. Questions 2 and 3 will have command words such as describe, identify, explain, identify and explain, and these assess the AO1 skills of knowledge and understanding and or AO2 skills, application of knowledge and understanding. There are no assessment marks for AO3, so remember you will not be asked to discuss or assess in these questions. Don't therefore waste time discussing an issue and trying to get used to the command words and the skills they are assessing. In these 2 questions, you may find that you do not refer to actual sociologists or theories. Marks are awarded for use of concepts and sociological language. Try to bring these in where appropriate. A copy of the specification and relevant concepts for this section is included in the next slide. This is the content in the specification for key concepts and processes of cultural transmission. Try to use the concepts where appropriate. There may be relevant concepts that you can add to this from other parts of the specification. Let's look at question 2B. The 2 marks here are for AO2. In the example given is a simple explanation followed by an appropriate example. The 2 marks could also be awarded for a simple explanation followed by a development. In question 2C, if the answer is not related to the passage or selected from the passage, no marks will be awarded. For question 3B, there are 2 marks allocated for each way explained. You can see in the example that there is a common mistake where learners write about what is taught, but not how it is taught. The question is asking about the process. So even though there are several concepts in the answer, this does not answer the question. If you look at this response to question 3B, you can see that unlike the previous example, this answer does focus on the way culture is passed on, and it answers the question. We'll now look at how to answer question 4C. The mark scheme states that you must explain at least 2 factors. Learners who focus on 2 factors tend to score more highly than those who write about more than 2 factors because they achieve detail and breadth. If you can, include the work of relevant sociologists or theories, but only where appropriate. When answering question 4C, make sure that you are familiar with the difference between the AO1 and the AO2 skills, as you are given a separate mark for AO1 and for AO2. You may find it helpful to practice these skills. Practice on 4C and 5C questions which carry the same mark distribution. You can indicate on your answers where the AO1 and AO2 skills are. You may even like to use different colours for the different skills. This slide has words and phrases to help you with AO2 skills. See if you can add a few more words or phrases to indicate AO2 skills. Let's now look at the specimen answer for question 4C. Read through this response and assess yourself how good it is. A very good idea is to use the mark scheme to become familiar with what the examiner is looking for. Can you suggest how it could be improved? Is more detail needed in places? Once you've done this and you've applied the mark scheme and you've come up with your own marks, it might be useful to click on the commentary box on this slide, which is a red icon, and then you can check your responses with those of the principal examiner. We'll now turn to question 4D, which carries 15 marks. And this question has the highest allocation of marks in this paper. This is a discussion question, and this is indicated by the question, do you agree with this view? This tells you that you are required to discuss the statement and put forward different views. If you look at the mark scheme, you will see that there are AO3 marks for this question. The question 5D, which is on education, is very similar with all the skills included and the same distribution of marks. It's probably better not to answer questions with "I think" when you're asked to agree with a view, because that makes it personal and won't get you into the higher bands where you need to discuss theories of different sociologists. To get into the top band of the 15 mark questions, you must have 3 different views. The view expressed in the question and 2 different views. For band 4 AO3, there has to be discussion or judgment throughout. Don't just describe views. Are they sound? What are their weaknesses? Try to include evaluation or discussion in every paragraph. Don't leave it to the end to draw your conclusions. There must be a conclusion which relates to the question. It's a good idea to use the actual words of the question to make you focus. The examiner must have a clear idea of your views on the question, even if you're not quite sure. There is a specimen example of the same type of questions, a 5D question, on slides 26 and 27. In this slide, we have words and phrases which could help you with AO3 skills. It is important to remember, however, that these words must be followed by relevant evaluative points. This slide contains words and phrases that can help you write a conclusion and form a conclusion. Please get used to using these words in your essays. If we look at question 5B, education, you will see that you need detailed, relevant knowledge and understanding of theory, concepts, and sustained sociological language. Try to include relevant concepts from the functionalist views. There is an example in slide 25 of a specimen answer to this question. If we look at the specimen answer for question 5B, you can see that this response easily achieved full marks. There are many concepts in this answer, but you must note that this answer is confined to a description of what the functionalists say about the role of education, which was asked for in the question. There is no need for criticism or comparison with other views. For question 5D, this carries the same marks as question 4D. Remember, it requires all 3 skills, including 8 for AO3. It's a discussion question, and as in question 4D, AO3 carries the most marks. This slide explains the use of AO2 and AO3 when writing your responses for question 5D. Please remember, evaluation should not be left to the end or the conclusion. It should run throughout your answer. Point out the strengths and weaknesses of the theories as you go. Try to evaluate in each paragraph. For example, after looking at the labelling theory, you could evaluate with a comment that some pupils may choose to reject their negative labels and fight to overcome them. If you look at this specimen answer for question 5D, you must try to achieve AO3 on every page. In the introduction, a different view is introduced, but the labelling theory is just explained and not assessed. Opportunities for AO3 are missed on this page. The use of the word however introduces the idea that this is a different view from the one in the question, but the difference is not explained. Also, it could have been made obvious that the section on Willis was an alternative view. This answer falls into band 3. It requires more detail and development of knowledge and understanding, and also requires more sustained evaluation in order to get into the higher band. We'll now look at question 6B in sociological research methods. This question clearly states in the question for this research. Some attempt is required to link this advantage to the given research. For example, the above example could be followed by teenagers may be reluctant to express their views on a fairly personal matter and may prefer to remain anonymous. Here is a specimen answer to question 6C, and it's worth noting that it carries 12 marks, 4 of which are for AO3. This response needs more reference to methodological concepts. Reliability is identified but is not explained. And again, you can click onto the icons in the slide to look at the principal examiner's responses and commentaries. There should be more reference to methodological concepts such as validity, representativeness, reliability, ethics, and generalizability. This answer just makes band 3 for AO1 and AO2 skills, but band 2 for AO3, as there is only partial analysis and evaluation of strengths and weaknesses, and only superficial judgment throughout the response. If you have any further questions about this exam, write them on a post-it note and stick them to the front of your paper to give to your teacher. Thank you very much for your attention.